Hey, it's me, MLB. Here's chapter 49 of Chance Ball, and this one is titled Drifting. The guy just lay there on the ground, holding his face and wailing, and Dabi was having a hard time not laying a few good kicks into him. You have 5 freaking seconds to get your sorry ass up and gone before I turn you into mashed potato, freaking lowlife. The guy got up and ran, leaving a fuming Dabi and a stunned Omawei behind. Dabi was still thoroughly pissed as he stood there breathing angrily. Then he realised Omawei was still there and had heard everything that he had said. Oh, crap. Damn. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I got angry. I lost my cool. Omawei had watery eyes, and Dabi at first thought it was because of the things that he'd said to the guy. Oh, man, I went too far with that one. No one has ever stood up for me like that, she said in a trembling voice. Thank you, Dabi. If he touches you again, you tell me. Dabi said darkly. Are you really gonna sew his father's, No, hell no, sorry. But I'll punch him in the balls next time, Dabi said. She smiled gratefully and walked up to him. I'll be okay to get home now. He won't touch me again, she said. You were terrifying. Dabi laughed. Good, now get home. She grinned and ran towards the house while Dabi turned and headed for home. Hope Yun is okay, he wondered as he checked his phone for your message. He turned up at the grand time of 11:30 p.m, and you were tolerant, to say the least. At least he had had the decency to text you this time, but you were starting to feel the distance. How was work? You asked him. Good, he grunted as he flopped down in bed beside you. What did you have them doing? You prompted. Volleyball stuff, he replied, turning his head and planting it into the pillow, the muffled, apathetic reply irking you. You had a vein pop moment and scrunched your face with annoyance. Oh, you said loudly with low-key sass. Thanks for asking. I had a good night, only a few customers, and I figured out how to enter a barcode manually on an item that wouldn't scan. Well done, he replied in a dead tone. This made you even angrier. All you wanted was some time with Dabi. It had been a few days now where you'd both been occupied with work, and you were hoping that you'd be able to sit down and talk about your time at your respective works, but he wasn't being as chatty as you had hoped he was going to be. Fine, you said, putting your phone on charge and lying down and then rolling over in bed away from him. You wanted him to chase you, ask you what was wrong, try and make things better. But all he did was push himself up off the bed and head for the showers, leaving you heartbroken and alone in bed. Is this the end of our relationship? You wondered sadly. Are we drifting apart? Dabi was exhausted. Teaching a bunch of kids was tiring, and then on top of that, he'd had a workout, and then trained Omawei, and then punched some guy in the face. All of that adrenaline had started to wear off now, and he suddenly felt doubly drained. All that, coupled with you being a sook, just took it out of him. He just wanted to get away from you at that point. He had talked all afternoon and night, and had wanted to just come home to a warm hug, maybe get himself serviced, but instead, he got a pouty, grumpy girlfriend. The hot shower felt good, and he spent longer than usual in there, just staring at the wall and letting the water run over him. By the time he hopped out, you were well and truly asleep. He knew you had been crying because of your breathing, but he didn't have the energy to try and rectify the problem, and he certainly didn't want to wake you right now, so he fell asleep instead. The next day was Sunday, and you didn't have work, but Dabi did, and you both kind of awkwardly went about your morning routines without talking. This is stupid, you finally said to him, as he made himself some food. Why are we fighting? Are we fighting? He asked. I didn't know, because you were ignoring me. You cracked a small smile and walked over, eagerly wrapping your arms around his side as he opened one arm out and scooped it around your back and pulled you in. I'm sorry, I miss you, and you don't talk to me, you said sadly. He kissed the top of your head. I was so tired, he admitted. It's actually pretty draining, running around after kids all night. I bet, he replied, pulling back and looking up at him. He bent his head down and kissed your lips. I'll tell you more about it tonight, if I'm not too tired. He went back to making his food, and you grabbed something to make some too. What time do you start tonight? You asked. 5 p.m, he replied. Hopefully I'll be home a little earlier tonight. Yeah, please, that'd be nice. He nodded and took a bite from his food. Might have Thursday night off this week, because the girls and Tonkata are going over the plays for the other team on video, so they'll be doing strategic stuff, and they won't need me. Let's do something Thursday night then. I'll ask if I can have the night off too. Yeah, okay, he replied, looking at his watch. I gotta go, baby, but I'll be back. He gave you another crummy mouth-covered kiss and then walked off to get changed, and you went to the lounge to watch some TV. It was another late night, and although Dabi had texted you about going for dinner with Tonkata, he still turned up drunk as hell at 1 a.m. You're going to regret all these late drunk nights, you mumbled as he fell into bed beside you, stinking of alcohol. He hummed, falling asleep as you lay there scowling. Monday morning he was a wreck, and you tried to wake him for class, but he just groaned and rolled over. So, fed up, you just left him there and walked to college on your own. You saw him wandering in and around at lunchtime and promptly avoided him. You didn't want to associate with such a bum, and you had nothing in common to talk about anyway, as he never asked about your work and never wanted to talk about his. Monday night you didn't have work, but he did, and you allowed him to drive you both home after college, and then you went to do some study, and he went to eat something. As you were lying on the bed reading textbooks, you heard the front door close. He had left without even calling out a goodbye, and your heart sank. You put your pen down and then let your face fall into your hands, your eyes quickly welling with tears. What's happening to us? Why is it like this? You thought, feeling broken inside. You missed the Dabi that you remembered. You two had had so much fun together, but now everything was different and it hurt. After a good cry, you tried to do some more study, but your mood was ruined, so you watched some TV and had some comfort food and then got ready for bed. You turned your phone off that night, not even caring if Dabi would try and call or text. You knew he was just doing it obligatory. Deep down you knew he really didn't care if he let you know or not. Then you went to sleep. At 9 p.m. the girls' volleyball practice was still in full swing, and Dabi was watching both sides of the net very closely. The girls had been improving at an alarming rate, but none so much as Omawei, who had remained focused the whole game and had even returned 2 balls, which was a huge improvement to her usual gameplay. Every time she moved to a good spot, Dabi called out to let her know that she had done the right thing, and she beamed with pride. After practice, Tonkata and Dabi spent a little bit of time talking. We have the game this Sunday, so Thursday night I want to show the girls the players of the team that they'll be versing, Tonkata said. Yeah, I remember those nights, Dabi said with a smirk. Who are you versing? Nekoma Girls Junior, Tonkata replied. Oh, my girl used to play for the Nekoma High, Dabi said with pride. The high school's team was pretty good, so I'm assuming juniors were just as hard. Tonkata nodded. But our girls have had training from you, so we're a step ahead. Dabi smirked. It's been a pleasure. From outside, Dabi could hear the faint smack of a volleyball and glanced at the door. That Omawei's been training hard, he commented. She's the weakest in the team, but she's starting to blend in a bit more now. Yes, I've noticed that, Tonkata said. Good work with her. Thanks, Dabi said, looking at the door. She's probably out there practicing now. I'll go and check on her and then walk her home. There's a creepy guy hanging around her neighbourhood. Tonkata grunted with disdain, and Dabi nodded. Yeah, don't worry. I gave him 20 reasons to never touch her again, Dabi commented, turning and heading for the door. See you tomorrow night, Tonkata called. Let's get drinks again. You're on, Dabi replied after a short pause. It's not like home life is any good at the moment anyway. He headed out the door and looked to his left. There was Omawei practicing her serves again, looking a lot more in control and focused than she had in the past. He smiled internally as he walked over and watched her, and she straightened a little more when she saw that he was watching. Good, he said when she smacked the ball across the net to the opposite corner of the court. That would have been a service ace. She beamed. I've been practicing really hard. I can tell, Dabi commented. You'll be ready for the game this weekend. That's what I'm hoping for. You're coming, right? She asked bashfully. Dabi nodded. Oh, good, she said shyly, looking away with a blush. It's getting late, Omawei. Let me walk you home, Dabi said sternly. Yes, okay, yep, coming, she said quickly, grabbing her bag and running to his side. Off they went to her place, but as they got closer she stepped away from Dabi. I'm okay from here. You don't need to come with me, she said hesitantly. It's fine, he grunted. I'll walk you to the corner. No, it's okay. Thank you for walking me this far, she mumbled quickly, then ran forwards from him, turned the corner, and off home. He stood for a second and then turned to go home himself. You know, I should drop in and see my team sometime. I miss Nekoma days. He thought back to how you and he used to run amok around the school grounds, slinking off to the equipment shed or staying back late in the gym. He smirked to himself and then switched from thoughts of you to his teammates and remembered all the good times with them. I'll see if I can drop by sometime this week. As Omawei rounded the corner, she stopped for a second and then walked confidently towards her house, head held high. She spied that guy hiding in the shadows and she called out to him. You'd better get going before Dabi catches you, she said loudly. I'm not going to do anything to you. Hell, man, not messing with your boyfriend. He's friggin' scary as hell, the guy said, and Omawei grinned. Yeah, that's right. How did you get him anyway? The guy asked. Dunno, she lied with a proud grin. Maybe it's just how I treat him. put out, huh? The guy leered. Not for you, I don't, she shot, walking past and raising her middle finger as she headed off down the street. Since she had her back to him, he couldn't see her biggest grin. She knew that the boys on the block thought that she was dating Dabi, and she never corrected them. She liked the thought of it. Oh, this is going to add fuel to the fire. Stay tuned for the next chapter coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.